Hey there, listener. Welcome to the Deep Share Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Rouse, and for the last couple of decades, I've slowly been opening my eyes to a very different world than the one I grew up hearing about. And the more conversations I have with interesting people, the more mystifying this world becomes. So without further ado, let's get deep.
We've got science to celebrate! Demons bliss out! After what, baby? Come on!
There is rebellion in the wind. It will crush.
Everything I've said is true. It's real.
Dinosaur fossils? God put those here to test our faith.
A damn lie. I saw them with my own eye.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
We did illusions, man. None of it is true.
I'm not insane.
This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.
Ask away, brother.
Your tweets, man. Thank you. It's great to see you. Your tweets. The reason why I ask that is because your tweets are fantastic in terms of, like, I think that I have something understood, and then I go, hold on, Andy brought something to the table that I didn't think about, and it's like,
I've been trying to kind of comment more in the UFO Twitter space, but it's difficult when I bet there's a lot of people that have probably already blocked me, because as soon as a lot of them, I shouldn't say them, because shit, we're all part of that community, you know?
Sure.
As soon as you type hashtag UFO Twitter, guess what you're a part of? You know what I mean? So, I don't know, man. Like, I would like to think that, questioning the source of things it doesn't have to be the be all end all. It can lead you to better questions too, more precise questions, like what we were talking about with Elizondo. Like, he's presenting to us a genuine human being, a good guy, whatever, ex-military, whether you hate that or not.
Right.
He's presenting himself as like a decent American dude that's doing his duty, or now doing a different kind of duty. So I don't really know what level of it is like fake or real, or, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I know what you're saying. This is the
almost
thing.
Doesn't have to be fake sometimes,
Well, there's the other thing too, right? With shaping operations and things like this. And then I see in the UFO community, at least the UFO Twitter specifically, there's bots that are trying to discredit everyone and anything at all times, like just constantly.
There's all kinds of different bots too. There's like bots that will use insults and try to get people to unfollow you, and then there's the other kind that are like cheering you on the whole time, but say it's just very weird and throwing information out that's never really useful. It's very weird.
Or substantiated.
Yeah, especially that one. I mean, you and me both are victims of that. We get caught up in that shit all the time.
Dude,
like,
and then and then the question becomes, not to get overly like philosophical or esoteric.
That's me.
Define substantiated to what? I mean,
right.
It's the point now where people say, even seeing a document because of how the games that the government plays is not enough anymore.
That's me. And I know my own cognitive dissonance is a problem too, at some level, because I can't think everything's fake, because even I'll say it again, the everything fake crew doesn't think everything's fake. You know what I mean? But like, right. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's so weird. There's so many levels to it. And I feel like most of the time we're tricking ourselves because of that cognitive dissonance, but that's the whole point of it, right? The whole this or that, yes or no, yes or no. Do I believe, do I not believe,
Right. From an esoteric perspective, you know what I do find substantial and potentially ascertainable is the particularly the occultic and Egyptian connections that seem to have gone from the chronology from then till now in correspondence with the rumor of Atlantis. That's something that seems to constantly, and when I say that occult, I'm not trying to be overly vague. We can talk about the pentagram, the even numbers, the 10 to the power of 8. I've been talking about it freaking the last 3 days, man. And especially Kurt Jaimungal had on what's his name there, Salvatore Pais.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right. And you see, when I wanted to ask you your thought on when Pais said you cannot do induce this with physical items, or objects, but you can with plasma. I couldn't help but think, again, I thought of Dan Winter, his
Yeah,
his whole
man.
life's based on that, and plasma phase conjugation. But not only that, like the whole thing of the way in which plasma has seemingly deliberately not been defined by the academic community. Try and get
Yeah.
a paper published on plasma. Try. They won't publish. Very rarely they'll publish it.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, man. It's just like it's a very interesting situation we have with plasma, and especially I don't know if you and I have talked about it before, but I'm sure you're aware of like all the weird patents that have been in place
Yeah.
for plasma
Fusion.
technology and
Yeah, plasma.
fusion. And it's
Right.
like, well, all right, but this is all theoretical. How are they patenting it? Where's the fucking line? Where are you allowed to patent shit? I mean, apparently, like they're patenting like the fake DNA that they're putting in people or something too. I don't know. It's crazy, man. I don't know what to think half the time.
It's interesting because it seems to hit this sort of roadblock, but deliberate roadblock within the system, which is that, like, for example, Mr. Pace said on Kurt Jarmungel's interview that there was, and I'm paraphrasing here, but there was a structural entity of approval above those at the patent office, that when things got super complicated, Mr. Pace could present his findings and research to quantum physicists, astrophysicists, the whole thing. And if I'm not mistaken, the response was essentially, well, we can't disprove him, so just fucking let the patent go through. And I think that is not just scientifically based, that he couldn't be disproven. I think that particular scientist or committee reviewing his work got a nudge saying, let it through, because the Navy needed those patents, in my opinion, to be patented. But as he said, he left the secret sauce out of the patents.
Right. Yeah. That's really curious too. What are your thoughts on that part of it? Like,
I think he's onto something with respects to plasma. I don't think he's a bullshitter or a psyoper.
It doesn't seem like it.
I could be wrong, but the thing is that you look at someone, for example, like Bob Searle, who was picked up very quickly by the UK, the British government, because he was able to get to the moon and back in under an hour, or go around the Earth in under an hour. And he said the same thing. He enabled a plasma field to create a void, if you will, around the craft. So again, there's many different ways of propulsion, but it seems like what we know, we don't know what plasma is, and we can't ask a scientist what plasma is. They don't know. They can't say.
What we think of it is like an
Sure,
amorphous
what we
form of
perceive it to
matter,
be.
but it's elusive.
Right.
There's properties that possibly are part of it that would appear quote unquote magical. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm currently of the, I don't want to say belief, I say ideological subscription, because it can always change. But right now I'm leaning towards plasma being the doorway or gateway between the etheric and the physical. It seems to be that particular state of I don't want to say matter, because who am I to say, but that, again, creates that intermergence via things like piezoelectricity, for example, because that would be, again, you see what I'm saying? The fact that you can, I interviewed recently a very, very smart astrophysicist, and Alexei Novitsky, and he said, I go, what was one of the most shocking things that you did not learn in school that you learned later? And he goes that I think he said electromagnetic fields can affect gravitational waves or gravity.
Whoa. So
I believe that's what it was, electromagnetics that can, control the flow of gravity. I think it was. Yeah.
Wow. That's intense. I mean, that would so all this kind of proves at least the craft that we're seeing. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that there's craft out there, because I've seen them.
There's definitely a there, in my opinion. What I can say is, again, I've been very fortunate to make some connections with some individuals within government. I want to preface this to your audience as well by saying I could be fed nonsense. Let me be very clear. I'm not saying that I am the guy I know. No.
Right. Yeah. But at least you're aware of that fact. You know what I mean? I like that.
Right. Unless I got like a freaking gray right over here or an Andromeda, I'm not going to say
here they are.
Right. Exactly. So when I look at that and I see, for example, what they're saying as it pertains to, like, for example, I was told something that I think Lou Elizondo saying publicly lately, as it pertains to when you go to the zoo, you see gorillas in the cage, and the gorillas are free in the cage, but always keep in mind there's a human with a shotgun on hand in case the gorilla escapes. Apparently, that's what's currently happening here, and our subconscious fuels the bedrock of that cage. Now, because of the alleged inversion of our sociological and anthropocentric influence, throughout the years, for the last, I think 13,000 years since the last flood, if you will, or whatever you want to refer to it as, that it seems as though that every major religion and culture had a flood story of sorts. So here's the thing. I then thought about this for a second, and I go, hold on. This whole gorillas or apes in a cage at a zoo thing. I go, the old saying from the Roman days when it was give them bread and circus and they will never revolt. Right. I'm thinking to myself, it's almost like we are being given things like phones, laptops, that, not to be a fear monger or anything like this, that seem to emit and disseminate frequencies that would control our behavior with VLF, ELF, or ULF, all being the same thing, extremely low frequencies. In order to, that is our modern bread and circus, because the last thing that the cage keeper, the zookeeper, which I don't know who they are. I'm not here to say that I know, but the last thing the zookeeper would want is for that gorilla overnight to go, hold on a fucking second. I can use my fingers. I'm strong enough to undo the bolts of the cage. And I would dare to say, to parallel that with reality, undoing the bolts of the cage in a gorilla sense, that's our subconscious realizing what we're in. And I think by definition, that thins whatever veil is artificially placed over us, if there is one.
Right. Have you played with the idea that beyond all the deception, beyond all the control and the secrecy and all the stuff we talk about, that it is like I don't know, to use a different metaphor would be like they think they're parents, right? We've all heard that theory. But what if we know for a fact there's at least one solid main group, unless there's two. I still think it's one, just pretending to be two, that knows something about our origins and knows something about what's happened before.
Right.
That's obvious. I don't care what conspiracies you throw out or hold on to personally, anybody, something is there that understands how it was before.
Yes. And it's toying with us.
And I often wonder that. I often wonder if there's a part of it that's toying with us, but I mean, you know me, I'm all about fractals and shit, and everything just goes on in bigger and bigger levels. And I wonder if
macro, micro.
Yeah. And it often seems that the intent shifts one way or the other, like yin yang, like circling around and around from one of these levels to the next. And I think that's another reason why a lot of us, we think we find a specific answer, right? And we may be looking at something in one of those other levels and kind of trying to use the level we're on to connect it to reality. Okay. And that's why there's always the Hydra metaphor of cutting one head off and three growing back. You never seem to be able to grasp it. You can look through any family you want. Everybody's got the right excuses. Even when you look into the excuses, they had no hand in it. It's, you know what I mean? It's there and it's not there. It's a magician's trick, right?
I couldn't agree more. So let me add to that with
hell yeah.
Okay. So to add to all of that, let me ask you this, and to your audience as well, a little bit of a thought exercise here. Instead of two thought exercises, instead of I think, therefore I am, how about it is I am, therefore I think? But we have been taught an inverted version and perverted version to justify our subconscious being totally in the dark that creates that bedrock of that cage or whatever you want to call it. Now, that's number one. Now, you know how they say that magic is science that is not yet explained? Yes. I've recently been exploring the concept of, just in the last day or two, what if science is magic unexplained? You see what I'm saying? The inversion seems to be something that those at the top understand, not to get all, fringy or tinfoil hatty, but it seemed, so I came across an interview with Michael Aquino, the former, Temple of Set, Anton LaVey, that whole thing there. And what I found was that in this interview, again, he could have been BSing, don't kid yourself, but he said that the concept of the Temple of Set was not negative nor positive, it was neutral. And it seems as though that those in which are close to the top pertaining to a system of control, whether physical or esoterically, have a concept of neutrality because they understand that there needs to be an energetic balance that in order, even I guess you could say the bad guys with air quotes, no, they're, even if they want to feed off all of us, we need to have positive experiences for our loosh to rebalance. Sort of like when you take psychedelics, you got to take some time off of it when you're done, so the serotonin levels can reset. That's something I've been exploring.
Can deal with all the things that you realized about yourself. You find that. See, that's where I find the conspirator. He's in there. And you gotta, I
agree. And I think right. And I think also this speaks to but also I've been leaning towards this as well, the concept of fractal cosmology, that we're all a piece of the source and that we are, so it seems as though, in my humble opinion, that whatever's coming, and I don't want to be overly vague, but it's currently, I'm of the opinion, I don't think humans are running the show in terms of this upcoming disclosure. And if they are, I would dare to say they're trying to take away whatever abilities these non-human entities are trying to give the masses and keep it for themselves at the top, as gatekeepers, if you will. Now, maybe I'm totally wrong. Let me be clear, but I've been exploring this because it seems, because let me say, I was told off the record, again, could be bullshit, from someone within the NSA. They said to me, they go, Dave, we need to develop a better relationship over time. But let me tell you this. What if we had many different species that wanted our attention and wanted us to sign contracts with them? But we, over the years, felt, maybe to say if we as humans are right or wrong or not, it's not for us to say, but we felt that we got enough tech from stealing it from them, from exchanges and this and that, to make our own species, a new species, if you will. And in combination with the transhuman AI agenda, in combination with, all of this, right? And you see, that made me think too, what if, part of my English, what if these sons of bitches at the top said to both the benevolent and the malevolent, fuck off, and we're going to run shit now, and that's it. Now, it's
dude, what movie is that too? Because it's many themes. So that theme is so ubiquitous through 20th century film and storytelling, where it's that hubris. It's The End of the Ninth Gate. Have you ever seen that movie with Johnny Depp and Frank Angela? Rest his soul. I believe he. You know what? I'm gonna check, because maybe he didn't die, and that would be terrible. But it's that ultimate hubris of thinking that you can own the I guess the darker side of this thing. It's the Emperor. It's Darth Vader, right? It's it's the Emperor, because he thinks that he can hold it all, and that's just ego. Right. That is total ego. And it looks to me like we are being run, for more or less, by the ego, psychopaths, sociopaths, and narcissists, like that. All the traits of this that one side of the brain run wild. Right. And, I don't know. Ed, what do you think? I mean, we've been talking about more esoteric things than, UFO stuff, which is great, because I love being able to show people like how broad a spectrum you and I can speak.
Oh
on.
Man.
It's so fun for you and I to just go nuts.
I agree.
And, I love that you're kind of looking more into the esoteric side of this stuff. And
I'm being honest with you, brother, it's leading me there. It's not even that I'm saying to myself, I want to, but I love doing it, but it's leading me there. The science is leading me there. There's no other, again, I can't help but think of the word physics, physical, that's only one side of the coin. I just,
dude. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you're just like what you're saying, man, like the physical being only one side of it, right? But also, I think a lot of things that we consider non-physical are actually attributes of our physical existence. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a weird. I think physical is the wrong word. We're gonna have to throw. Well, I mean, dare I say, I don't like throwing out words. That's not the right way to say it. But more accurate way of kind of describing this condition, because that's kind of what psychedelics did for me. It showed me that what was in my head was out here and what was out here was in my head, and there was really no difference.
Right.
And of course, that's terrifying as well. And then when you put a bunch of individuals in a room together that are potentially all having that experience, that's where things really break down to me, where what does that even mean? That perhaps we're all our own gods, but that's hubris as well, right? To some degree, using the language we've been taught, that sounds like hubris.
Yes.
I don't know, man.
I agree. I'm actually, forgive me if it looks like I'm scrolling through something. I'm looking for.
That's what I was doing.
Right. I'm looking for the, if I can't find it in the next 5 seconds, I'll just bring it up. So essentially, in 1864, James C. Maxwell had postulated in physics that there were that he had a unified field of everything, like the answer to what is life, so to speak, and it was deliberately interpreted or edited by Oliver Heaviside and another gentleman I forgot the name of, and Heinrich Hertz. The gentleman who's now named after, frequencies, Hertz frequencies.
Yeah, dude. And Heaviside, like bring in the heavy, take this dude out.
Dude, I gotta say, there's a lot of that. And we have so much to catch up on. I don't think
Hell yeah, dude.
One episode. There's things like in math 10 to the power of 8 that seems like, anyways, that the occult uses, that Salvatore Pais said to Kurchai Mungol, you 10 to the power of 8 Planck, something with that number with pertaining to inversion. It's a whole thing. But anyways,
and the number 108 as well.
108, so 1 point, yeah. Regardless of where you use the decimal.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just like a sound in a language. It doesn't matter what language it is. It all roots back to the same resonant frequency.
Right. Let me see here. I really want to get this for
please do. I could, and you know what? I don't think we've even said hi to the audience yet, actually.
Right.
To be completely honest. Hi, welcome back to the Deep Share. And I'm here with my buddy Dave Zed from Generation Zed podcast, and it's been a while. It's been like 6 months since we've gotten to like sit down and talk. Maybe even longer. It's probably been longer than, I don't know. Time fucking flies, man. But I love that we sat right down, and it was as if it's been 6 hours instead of 6 months.
I couldn't agree more, brother. It's actually, if I could share my screen with you.
Sure. Yeah.
I found it here. It has to do with also what's been referred to as the Gwen Towers, the ground wave emergency network system that uses extremely low frequencies that hug the ground, that again can control our minds, that we are not familiar with, that the military uses as direct energy weapons. But take a look at this. The Hertzian conspiracy. I'd love to read this for you and your audience. So in late 1864, James Clerk Maxwell published his epic material on electromagnetic waves. We're reading this paragraph here. His material dealt not only with EMF waves, but also the relativistic and ethereal psychoactive component of these waves, representing electromagnetics of the second order and above. The equations also included transformations that enabled the change from inertial frames of reference to non-inertial frames of reference. Now, let me say here, Maxwell's original equations were written in quaternion notation, a complex mathematical system available at that time before vector analysis was introduced by Oliver Heaviside. Today's generalized equivalent of quaternions is tensors. We have to remember how significant tensors are in all of a sudden, quantum physics, they just discovered it. They knew since at least World War II. In modern human, they knew. Anyways, just my opinion. But in short, Maxwell's original work gave the necessary info for gravitational propulsion, and psychoactive devices. Even you could argue stargates, things, because if you can get anti-gravity out of it, you got force fields, free energy, all of it, right? Someone somewhere recognized this, for shortly after Maxwell's death, Oliver Heaviside, the mathematician, the chemist Willard Gibbs, that's the guy, I forgot his name, and physicist Heinrich Hertz decided to edit or interpret Maxwell's famous equations, which were in the original form the foundations of electromagnetics and unified field theory, which basically gives the answer to what we're living in, what everything is. This unholy trio, especially Heaviside, disregarded the quaternions or scalar components of Maxwell's original equations because they represented potentials and not fields. He thought potentials were akin to mysticism because, in quotes, he goes, everybody knows that fields contain mass and mass cannot be created from apparently nothing. So, I mean, honestly, no, it's not coming from nothing. It's coming from a hyperspatial dimension. But anyways,
it just doesn't stop existing ever.
Right. Which is what potentials are, both literally and mathematically. They're an accumulation or reservoir of energy. Furthermore, not only did they throw away the gravitational component, end quote, about what he said there, but with the quaternion scalar, but also postulated that gravitation and electromagnetism were mutually exclusive, not interdependent. Again, two sides of the coin thing. They split it on purpose, in my opinion. This was the death blow. This was the death blow to subsequent efforts by scientists to realize a functioning unified field theory, aka answer to what life is. Because of this one act, electromagnetism was reduced from its original 5 dimensions to only 4. X, Y, Z, and time. The element of G was removed, which is why after this, I want to say, I'm not reading from anything now, but it was always brushed aside that there is no such thing as a magnetic spectrum by physicists. No. There's somehow a light spectrum, but a magnetic one, there can't be. Again, right nonsense. But now take a look at this. Because of this deliberate act, 22 other errors exist today in electromagnetic theory. The very concepts of force, mass, and charge are ill-defined, and the so-called static of electric charge has been discovered by quantum mechanics to not be static at all, but to move rotationally by virtue of the quantum mechanical spin.
Whoa.
Finally, adding insult to injury, the so-called imaginary components of Maxwell's original equations, as well as the mutilated versions of the equations, have also been discarded or ignored. With this last error, the door to hyperspatial dimensions was forever closed. For the present, math and physics of EMF theory don't allow for hyperspatial domains outside of 3 dimensions, superluminal signals that exceed the speed of light or are infinite in speed, and a unified field theory. If there is a non-human intelligence trying to ensure we stay in that gorilla cage, it would be definitely ensuring that those gorillas don't start unscrewing the bolts at all.
Even if it was us, even if it was our egoic, psychopathic, parasite controllers, like at some point, the who, it's like, regardless, but what we have right here is our fucking firmament.
Right, exactly. And now I want to say as well too that I'm going to skip to the last 2 little paragraphs here. Dr. Henry Monteith has independently discovered that Maxwell's original quaternion theory was a unified field theory. Einstein assumed, because he only had access to the altered equations, although I think secretly they did give him the initial ones, truth be told. The documents now show he worked with MJ12 and all that, but allegedly, that curving space-time could only be achieved by the weak gravitational force due to mass, that the local frame would always be a Lorentz frame, which would mean that all operations would be constrained to the conservation laws of physics. In the 1960s, the Hertz measurement, named after Heinrich Hertz, replaced cycles per second, which cycles per second allowed us to measure extremely low frequencies. But no. They don't want us doing that. So since then, everyone thinks that all electromagnetic waves are Hertzian, but only the upper portion of the spectrum before infrared contains Hertzian waves. ELF, extremely low, and ultra low frequencies are not waves. Waves in biosystems are natural phenomenon are not Hertzian in nature. So,
wow, dude.
Yeah.
So how recent is that? I know it's from Biblioteca. I've seen that website a million times for like the past 20 years. At least.
They still add to it, which I appreciate so much. I don't know specifically, brother, but
I've always been curious who runs that.
I agree, and I wonder if it's an aggregated, people, a database around the world type thing. But I mean, at this point, when I was looking at this, I go, see, the thing is that I'm not saying the last thing I want is for your audience or my audience to think that everything is, people in a dark room making, two, three people making decisions, or, just a handful of people. But in this case, I think it was.
I think it always is. I think, and I'll take it a step further. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this since we're getting all esoteric. I think that's how kind of reality is set up. Again, wherever that, the end of that physicality is, I think that's irrelevant. What physical is and, what's beyond it for us, all the other dimensions, whatever. But I think reality itself seems to be set up where the needle is always in the haystack. There's always a diamond in the rough. There's few extremely smart people, and then there's tons of just average people everywhere. You know what I mean? Like the intensity is always very finite, not finite, but like hidden. It's a cult. It seems like reality itself has that mechanism as a part of it. And like I said, I found the conspirator in my head, right? It's always a cult until you bring it out, right? So that's kind of where I've been at with my interpretation of whatever Great Awakening means, or New World Order, or the Great Change, and whatever the next zodiac, Aquarius, what, all of it is like very interesting in that regard to me, where how are we going to change that, because that's kind of embedded in our reality. But what do you think of all that?
Well, what I'm looking at the moment, I'm trying to find something else. It is essentially the journey. One can argue it's anecdotal, but it's a website where it's basically the journey of one individual talking about their astral projection experiences. And they can see these artificial grids that go across ley lines. They can see these, for example, they can see a beam of extremely strong light or energy that cannot be.
Oh, shit. I think I lost Dave. Dave, the internet froze. Oh, is that him? No. Dave, you're frozen. Man. Dave's all frozen and shit. You can see his wonderful face. I wish I could go visit him, but his prime minister's a real piece of work. And I wish he could come visit us, but I think same thing. I think he's horrible. I think he's ruining that country on purpose. And I think any mud we sling at him is mud that came with the job. He's a straw man. And that's another area that I'd like to get into Dave with. Here he comes back. Let's let him back in. See how we can do this. Dave Zed is connecting to audio. There he is. He's back.
Oh, sorry,
He's back.
My internet just cut out for a split second.
Yeah. Do you remember where we were right at the beginning of your response? So go.
Yeah, 100%. So that we are not living in the physical as we define it. And apparently there's been, a very deliberate attempt from the Latin days to associate certain esoteric meanings with words because of intent, which has bioresonant. Yes, right. Yes, exactly.
Loving it.
Right. We are living in 40 to anywhere from 30 to 50% of real, if you will, and the remainder is an extremely astrally dense vibratory state.
Yes.
That has been placed over top us. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think that I would ever subscribe to what David Icke is saying, but my research leads me back to, again, not exact. Well, honestly, the Saturn moon matrix thing, without even realizing it, truth be told, that's where my research has led. I could be incorrect, as the dual slit experiment in quantum physics states, it's possible that you experience a reality that is different than mine. So who am I to say, right? But yeah, that's what I've been gathering so far. I've been exploring a lot of different things with respects to the esoteric, especially on my Patreon, where, man, just
You drop so much on your Patreon, man.
oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. So many grids of things I'm trying to understand. Of like, for example, time, space, time. There are layers of it, and that speaks to the micro and macro aspect of things.
Hell
Right.
yeah.
I think, yeah, what you understood months ago, I'm now just realizing. But
Well, so here's the
yes,
thing. It's friends like you who word things in a certain way, and that's why I'm so open to everyone's ideas, because everyone's right. They're just like, I'm not saying everyone's right. Like,
right.
everyone that thinks they've seen through it, they totally have. And when you come back from it, when you feel it, when you're bringing this info back, you're using that egoic side of yourself, that denser, more earthbound voice in your, the left brain. You're using that to explain your experience or your take on this phenomenon that you can't deny seeing or understanding. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a balance where it goes,
Okay, so let me I found one of the things I wanted to show you here. Let me share my screen again from
Yes.
that astral traveler here.
Sorry to the listeners, but please go to YouTube.
Oh yeah, sorry to the listeners.
And I'll never be taken down or anything. Just follow me on YouTube. I'll be putting stuff up on Rockfin. I'm on Odyssey, but seriously, like, I mean, I'm not getting taken down talking about aliens and shit. So I'm cool.
No, exactly. But we see here the real problem. Okay, small groups of people can get rid of the grid and the negative energy fields in the atmosphere in small areas. Like I said, when he astral projects, or she, not sure, they claim to see multiple grids, fake ones, like artificial ones, non-natural to the planet. It's way too much energy for one person to get rid of. The grid and the negative energy fields are a problem, but the real problem is the subconscious hive mind. The minds of the population are propping up the matrix. Now, let's see here.
Spot on.
Yeah. Let's see.
Sounds creepy, but it's literally what has happened.
Right. Okay, so hold on. So something must be done about this in small areas at first, but eventually once people see that we have created regions that are paradise on earth, their own self-interest will motivate them to do the same thing. So the matrix is a complex energy harvesting system, but we can and should dismantle it. Let me see here. He proposes, from what he's seen in his travels, that they program our subconscious minds to send us to a soul farm where we are tricked into reincarnating. And that is why people, almost every near-death experience I've heard of, were being tricked. Their subconscious mind sent them to a soul farm. Those that didn't go to soul farms were most likely tricked by the white light. And again, once you know what it is, avoiding it is easy. You can override this program and go somewhere else. Now take a look at this. I've been experimenting with manipulating the grid. If you don't know what it is, there's an energy grid that runs through the planet. It conducts a lot of energy. It is what projects the physical world. The physical world is really like a holodeck from Star Trek. Seemingly physical objects are really just light shaped by force fields. And at low power levels, the grid tries to maintain the matrix and tries to prevent anyone from changing it. At high power levels, I speculate it can manifest seemingly physical objects, but it doesn't usually do that when people are looking. The grid is programmed by intention, so we can reprogram the grid to change reality. But this is not again, it's one thing to realize it. It's another thing to come together and have enough of us change it. What's the number? 3% of any given population within a vicinity?
Yes. And I think with these kind of topics, it may have to be a lot more than that. You know what I mean? It may literally be but a lot of what's being said here is, again, you've got to throw out good guys and bad guys, because something about revelation of method is there's something about it that's true. You know what I mean? Where the truth has to come out. But I don't know. I'm trying to see it beyond this, the negative thing, though. I feel like,
yes.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I was tricked too, right? Maybe we were all tricked. I don't know.
Because
I have had people on too that specify and focus on that concept, even without the Saturn moon matrix. Wayne Bush is a great person to look into. He would be a great guest on your show. He's awesome. He
I
talks all
appreciate
about
that.
that stuff. I can definitely connect you to, because he was a
I
really nice guy, a great guest. He has a website called trickbythelight.com, and he's run it since the 90s, I believe. So, or early 2000s, something like that. But yeah, he's talks
oh
a
wait,
lot about it. And I think on one level it's happening. Yeah, I don't know. Go on, please, because
oh
this
dude,
this is
this
just
is
more and more confirmation. And yeah.
did you say he runs a website trickbythelight.com?
Yeah. Are we on that right now?
This is him. Yeah,
We're on
this
Trick by
is
the
him.
fucking light. Okay, so that's perfect.
This is dude.
What
This
a
is
weird synchronicity. I swear to God, I didn't know we were there.
But you
I
know
thought
what,
we
brother? I know, yeah. But you know, the thing is that it seems to align with what, and I say this carefully because I don't want to just fall into any, it seems to align with what a lot of the seemingly good faith individuals in the UFO community are trying to do, or which is that some of them have said, if you want to understand more about the phenomenon in general across the board, look within yourself, look how you can improve yourself, spend more time with your kids, spend more time with your wife, and you will find that actually you come back more intelligent. And I've personally found, again, that this whole, actually I'm getting goosebumps saying it, I've done a lot of psychoanalysis of myself. Why I'm way too emotional in this instance, and yada yada, and I found the more I improve myself, the more I fucking realize that the more I somehow in my work, I get excited, pardon me, things start to add up more. Now, maybe I'm just going nuts, but this is what seems to be right. This is what seems to be I got to be honest, brother. Again, my low mid-level contacts in the government that I've graciously made friends with in some cases, or connections with rather, they seem to be implying this, that they're by definition, and let me say for your audience too, to not fearmonger, if we're talking about the traps and all these things, but by definition, if there is negative, there has to be good, as above.
Always,
so
yeah,
so
absolutely.
this is why I have, when people say, oh, what can we do if we're in a cage of sorts? I think the first thing is realize it, because for a kinetic warfare to occur where, they come invade the planet, the whole thing, I hate to say it, but if I was a son of a bitch that was far more advanced and I approached a planet, a species that was way more inferior to me, I wouldn't do that. There were so many more deviant, smarter ways you can do it, especially if you had the alleged technology that these beings do, whether in the physical or not. And one thing I'd like to wrap up with, finish my tangent with, is Don Phillips, former CIA, Air Force, Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works Division, private contractor. He's on video testimony, essentially saying these are nuts and bolts guys. I'm just using him as one example. There's hundreds that say, we never believed in spirituality until we met these little, 3-foot beings and whatever. And we understood that, again, not saying these beings are good nor bad, but relative to the intent of our species, because I'm sure there's all kinds, but they all said everything starts with an idea. It comes from a higher dimension or whatever. And as you work towards it, and when you wake up in the morning and say, I want to, start a podcast, as you make it reality, it then comes into the physical. Now, it's been said that if we, again, I say this carefully, I don't like to use the word too often, but ascend enough or look within ourselves enough and get to this alleged fifth density, that whole concept of making physical objects or things come to fruition can happen like this. Now, this is the concept and the path that I've been exploring lately, but I also think this speaks to the micro and macro angle of things too. Right. I recently interviewed a very nice woman who's been doing work on water, believe it or not. I want to connect you with her. Water consciousness, water memory, speaking back, storing information, all of this. And she said she had an experience where the episode will go public soon, but she could almost like zoom in to things and then zoom out when she was in a particular lucid state.
Dude, that's psychedelic. I've had that experience, man. Yeah.
Zoom in, zoom out. That speaks to the concentric circles, the concept of fractality, a fractal universe, right? So
that's where my craziness came from, for sure. Yeah, I couldn't unsee the Russian doll.
Right. There you go. That's the path that I'm currently on now. That there is that there's one path in a scientific perspective, or even a philosophical perspective over another. I think there's multiple slices to the pizza. That
Yeah.
I honestly, and I'm not saying that as a cop out. I'm sure there are some people that are blatantly wrong and some that are kind of there, but something's off. And who am I to say? But
Right, like
that's
I said, we're all coming back to it, and so here's the thing: when you come back from that ecstatic state, the weird experience, anything that's perturbing your consciousness enough to kind of shake you awake, when you come back from that, like I said, the only point of view that you're able to use to analyze and express it and reflect on it
right.
is this the lower side, I guess. That's not the I'm missing the
No,
language
I
right
know.
now, but you understand the not
Yeah.
the higher self, not that one that has let go of the thinking. It's the one that's analyzing and reflecting is the I think therefore I am, instead of I
Looking
am therefore
within.
I think. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you said something great. You connected it so well, and it's fractal again, because early you said about the research around the physical world itself is just light being what would you say it was? It was like
Extremely
bent.
astrally dense energy fields. So like when
Right.
apparently atoms don't
Fields, yes.
actually atoms don't exist. That is what
Right.
our eyes perceive to be within the current information structure we live in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can use that example on every level, it just gets,
Right.
but yeah,
Right.
the zooming in shit was really an intense experience for sure.
Can
It
I ask
kind
what that
of,
was like? I've never had that. To be fair though, I've only done shrooms. I've never done DMT, psilocybin.
well, I'll tell you this, it happened on shrooms, but
Oh,
I took
wow.
there was my heroic quote unquote dose was 8 grams of dried mushrooms. And it was very, that one experience specifically, the zooming in and out was that, oh man, so many things like were so easy to understand at that point because it was like everything was everything. And
Got you. No, I can.
it was fractal. It was, I
Fractal.
hate to, I say it constantly. It's going to turn into a drinking game eventually.
Can I
Hopefully
bring
people will be drinking water and being healthy and kombucha. No, I'm just kidding. Fucking chug.
Can
chug.
I want to bring this up if it's all right before I lose the train of thought.
Whatever, go for it.
Apparently the what a lot of these military vets have been saying, whether it's the sort of old guard or even, to be fair, from what I understand, the Chris Mellons, the Lou Elizondos of the world, is that there seems to be an implication that, again, I don't want to use this word, so I don't want to throw it around so much because ascend seems to imply an outward focus, but rather I want to talk about focusing inward. It seems as though whether there are non-human entities, whether in the etheric or in what we know, the physical or not, it seems like even the ones that don't like us, apparently the ones that really hate us, that are the ones keeping us down allegedly, but we'll put that to the side for a second. The ones that have no interest in Earth but don't like humans overall still need us to ascend with them because of the fact that we are one with the universe. And apparently, it's the age of Aquarius, if you follow that angle of things, numerology, astrology, frequencies, and the planet allegedly resets once it goes through the 12 signs of the zodiac.
Right. The precession of the equinox.
Precession of the equinox, all of this. And so this would explain why I was told off the record, Dave, as I understand it, we got to grow up with the planet or we got to go. And I was also told worst case scenario, we have a fractured planet, fractured population as it pertains to people not understanding this when they need to. And then we have, in best case, we have enough people going, like waking up, in the sense of, to be honest with you, I would dare to say that what we're seeing with things like the trucker protest in Canada, with things like, all those things, I would hope that is a sign of that, but I'm vigilant of saying that so conclusively because of the tech in which our human leaders have, that we know for a fact can fuck with our emotions. So this is the thing. This is the thing I toy with.
Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's stay on our leaders for a second. First of all, when you froze up, I just kept recording and started just talking. And I mentioned how I wish I could come see you. I wish you could come see me.
Oh, thanks, man.
Alas, that will have to wait until some other time because of what's mostly going on up there. I'm not sure how strict it still is, but I don't want to get too off topic. I feel like it's different entirely, but I did want to ask you how you're doing up there and how your neighbors are doing and how people are feeling in your life with what Americans are being shown, especially truthers and conspiracy theorists, with the things that are rolling through our algorithms. You know, I wanted to see what your perspective was, being closer to home to it, you know?
I appreciate that so much. Let me tell you. So I was again raised in Toronto, Canada, but right now currently I'm in the province of Manitoba. I couldn't be happier that I am in the middle of, part of my English, butt fuck nowhere. No, very little frequency interference. I'm the closest town to me is maybe 45 minutes, an hour away. So
that's awesome.
Right. I do want to say that I love it. I have I'm doing great personally as I have a very strict routine. I can focus on the show out here. It's been fantastic. But as it pertains to the Canadians as a whole, I've had friends, I've had family where the bank accounts are frozen for $30 donation to the truckers. I'm not trying to be, I'm really trying to weigh both sides here, but I don't.
But hey, those are your friends. That's real shit. Like, that's not some psyop.
This is not some,
no, it doesn't have to be for the plan to be working. You know what I mean?
Right. And this is the thing. I read a story of a young old lady just trying to go shopping, couldn't even spend $100 to get a loaf of bread and some food for the week because her nephew donated to the truckers at $5-10, something like this. So let me tell you, brother,
wow.
I am not happy with where this government is going. If I had the ability financially and without needing to get the jab, I would fly there right now, not only because of what Trudeau's doing, but because of the laws in internet censorship and things like this. I am really not trying to fearmonger. If there is something good I can find about what's currently happening, I would love to tell your audience, but I can't.
No, and that's completely fair. And I think when we saw the Canadian truckers and all that, and Americans too, there's plenty of that. My wife mentioned it just the other day. Like, there's more trucker shit. I'm like, really?
Oh, can I tell you something very quickly?
Go for it.
Canadian trucker thing. One thing that did not fit their narrative is that just over 60% of Canadian truckers that are unionized are Punjabi. Great people. Hardworking people. These are fathers. These are mothers. These are people that were standing at the Parliament of Ottawa saying, "I'm not a terrorist. I'm a hardworking legal immigrant. That is just trying to do my job. I'm not a terrorist." Trudeau would not even sit down with the ones that wanted to speak, and it just goes to show how much, in my humble opinion, the propaganda. I mean, you're going to have violence and extremism everywhere, but man, they tried to make shit up big time with that stuff. I spoke to I was not there. I was trying to get a flight there. Right when I was trying to get a flight there, they put, you can't even fly domestically in the country without being fully jabbed. Wow. I used to be able, up until 2 or 3 months ago, to be able to fly all across Canada, no jab, just with the mask, and that's it. Now, jab, fully vaxxed, negative test. So
this is I hate to say it, but it's, what you're seeing in your home is a very good presentation, PowerPoint of how this whole process was supposed to go, because COVID it's just whatever. And most people are accepting that angle of it now. People that I love and care about that never were buying what I was selling, but ate it all up. Even they are like, oh God, I'm not following any of those. That's just ridiculous. Now they're just being too. That's what's happening in the culture now, on purpose, because we're on to Ukraine and other things. Meanwhile, you look at Canada, and it worked, because now all these laws are in place, even though the fucking rest of it's not a big deal. Like, all these things are unbelievable, man. It worked.
100, and it did work.
And what is Trudeau? Is he a straw man? Because
I see,
look at him getting shit on like crazy by
I take
fiery awesome woman. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm
German lady.
I'm trying to take a from the European Parliament. Yeah.
Yes, she's awesome.
I'm trying to take emotion out of it.
Yeah, I know.
I do see a straw man. Still, without emotion, I see a straw man.
Right. I mean, so that's the thing. The culture is fighting back against him. Everybody's yelling it on, like, the news. I don't know. I don't watch the mainstream legacy news, so I don't know what they're saying about him. But reliable news sources outside of that clan are reporting and showing information about how Trudeau's getting just slammed and everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's being lit on fire.
I have a family friend, and I want to be fair to your audience. One can always argue this is anecdotal, but I have a family friend that former KGB agent, brother. And from the Soviet Union, former KG, got the uniform, in a way proud of it at the time, that kind of proud but
Yeah.
hates it. But yeah,
It was
but it
still
was,
his life.
right, was his life. That was his thing. And I called him and I said, what do you think with what's happening? He goes, this is about a month and a half ago. He goes, I'm not trying to scare you, but he goes, this was a guy, by the way, when one time his daughter was physically abused by a guy that took her out. This was a guy that came and his arm right through the car door with the windows and grabbed the guy and pulled him. This guy was a no bullshit guy. He said to me, he goes, Dave, this is how it started in the Soviet Union with communism. He goes, and this, when he said that to me, I said, are you sure? He goes, you watch. And then I thought about what Jordan Peterson said on Joe Rogan a couple of years ago, as it pertains to the way that world governments take power from people. I'm going to encroach a little bit, and then I'm going to pull back. And then I'm going to encroach a little more, pull back again. Next thing you know, you're 10 miles back from where you fucking started, and you're too tired to fight because you just got home from getting up at 5 a.m. working hard, and you want to have a nice dinner, and you and your wife go, honey, well, it could be worse.
Of course, yes. That's the American dream. It could be worse.
Well, this is the thing. This is what they hope on, right? This is what they prey on. And when I say they, I'm speaking of the transnational elite of the world, the military-industrial complex. I think they prey on this because, or they leverage this because the goal is, and even in a physical sense, if you have protesters outside of a government building, like with Trudeau and the truckers, the hope is that the politicians can outlast the workers because they got to go back to work. But it turns out the truckers said, no, we're staying here. And what did they have to do? They had to bring out their people, and then they had to, their officers or whatever. And then they had to, in my opinion, flip it. You had a native lady that was trampled. And she I mean, to be fair, this is to be consistent. This is what I mean when I say propaganda as well. There was a lot of speculation she had died. She did not, from my understanding. Okay. However, she was trampled, and not even a single. This is when I get emotional. Trudeau doesn't even have the balls to go and show this lady respect and say, I apologize. That is.
Yeah, it's there. That's the interesting part about the straw men now is that there really is no pandering anymore. The pandering is a shitty parent to a little toddler. Like, he's not going to remember this anyway. Move on. You know what I mean? Like that shitty behavior is what they're, and that's what we're talking about. They're not our parents, right? But in the fractal frame of things, they are that knowing bunch over the, you know what I mean? And not that we're unknowing, dare I say that, not at all. But again, we have this group of humans, mind you.
Can I be honest?
That definitely know something from the beginning. And that's what I'm finding through my research on our very human history that's been left out without even touching my UFO love and all that kind of stuff. I'm finding that these secrets were known and, not necessarily given to us by someone else, but that hidden by the nature of reality. And I think, like on an individual level, what are we supposed to do to find that hidden realm?
Well,
we go through trauma.
Right.
So on a collective level, man.
Dude, I'm beyond baffled. And I was saying this to some other people the other night, and I know it's everyone knows this already, but I would really like people to think deeply about this. I'm beyond baffled that knowledge. It's one thing, say, to hide the truth about a physical object or something and lock it away, but that knowledge could be locked away and held over others. The fact that, in my opinion, I almost have to it's so bad. I almost have to applaud them because they do a great job of putting these occult-like symbols, which I think, again, going back to the concept of neutrality and duality, I think it could be used for good. It's just they choose to use it for bad, or for force. For force, exactly.
Well, it's the force, like Star Wars.
It's the force. Yes. Right. They do a great job of putting all these things right in our faces, whether it's hand signs, designs, and entertainment, while making us think it's nonsense. you know what? I gotta applaud him
or
for that.
evil. It's
Or
different. See,
evil.
I put up some tweet the other day, like, what is being awake?
Mm,
Is it
yeah.
realizing that,
I saw that. I like
Biden
that.
and his clan are all evil and, oh, I should go vote for Trump or the Republicans? Or is being awake realizing that the two-party system is just Hegelian dialectic? Or is it even worse than that? Is it, the Constitution? Oh, no, wait. Is it to realize that the Constitution really only applied to the dudes in that room? Like, where is it? It's a spectrum, right? It's just a spectrum. And, evil, the occult is evil. That is one level of it that is real, because hiding things on purpose is evil. And then there's this other weird side to it.
By definition, it goes against the nature of fractality, in my opinion.
Interesting. I haven't even thought of. I feel like nothing goes against the idea of fractality.
No. I think this is where I think the ones running, if there is a trap encaged over us or a fishbowl over top us, this is why they need the neutrality angle of it, because they understand that if we're all fractals of the source, they can't break the source, but they can bend the way in which one gets there or slow it down. Bends the light.
Man, that's awesome, dude. That fits so well. Oh, by the way, this is out of left field, but it just came to me, and I will forget. My wife wanted me to thank you for ruining Cryon for her last year, I think. And remember, that was that one episode you were talking about Cryon energy or something like that, and we were getting to this being called Cryon.
Right. Yes.
And we started linking up with this channeler that calls himself Cryon, and it was the same fucking symbolism. It was everything. He's talking about this coming thing. So it was the same thing. And ever since then, she started noticing, she said, Cryon's saying different things now. And I'm like, is he? Or are you seeing it a little different? And now, and suddenly she did not watch him from that point on. So she wanted to thank you for, you put that episode out. I was like, ooh, Dave, does this have anything to do with that channel? And you're like, who? That was awesome.
That's first off,
that was such a great connection that probably wasn't supposed to be made.
Right. For me, this is the thing. For me, it's not about whether trying to get people to leave a certain group or not, but rather, if I could help her think a little more openly, that's beautiful.
Seeing it from a different angle always is the key. I mean, that's literally perturbation. That's perturbing your consciousness.
Right. I'm very humbled, man. I wow, you guys remember. I can't thank you enough.
I loved that. I thought that was a great synchronicity we had. But
I agree. That speaks to the duopoly of this was one side of it, this was the other side. But I just wanted to say before I lose this train of thought with respect to fractality and all of that. If there was again, according to micro, macro, all of that concept, say, for example, I had a crystal ball right here, and then that turned into the earth, and I was a giant, and wherever I tapped on the earth, a problem started. If I was someone tapping that ball, think about it from, a big picture, bird's eye view of the planet. This is how I would do it right now as we speak. COVID, okay, boop, Ukraine, okay, boop, this, okay, that. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's exactly how I would do it. That's just my thought on it.
Dude, I love that. It connected me to a weird thought. Remember the end of Men in Black where it zooms all the way out? I mean, they're showing you fractals right there. And eventually I guess the fractal stops because it's just like these aliens playing with like a different colored balls, and it's like they're marbles, and everything was inside of that. Right. But there's that not only is showing us cool fractal imagery and everything, but it also alludes to an ancient philosophy from the East. I would be wrong if I tried to guess at which one. Something I read a long time ago about this ancient philosopher who thought that all of reality was just simply a child playing with different colored balls. Because and that blew my mind. I read it right after taking like one of my first deep psychedelic trips, and because I ended up in the bookstore forever after that, because none of my friends had that touch of it, and holy shit, man, that idea blew my mind because of the fractal Russian doll thing, but also because of intention building everything. I mean, what do color tuning, what do colors do to a child, that innocent childlike wonder? Oh, I don't know. It's
Dude,
so awesome.
I'm just making some notes right now as we speak because I don't
Cool.
want my train of thought, but I can't help but think this keeps going back again to the intent of neutrality from a perspective of, again, fractals, but it's almost like they're sort of like a bricklayer. You're trying to put you got to put the bricklayer, a good one, knows you got to put symmetrically perfect one brick over the other. But then imagine right before you put the brick on, there's some force, sort of like when you take two positive or negative charges of a magnet and it just doesn't go. There's something that's stopping the brick from settling in a good way.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what I think is what goes against fractality. I think that's that veil, maybe that the very, in my opinion, intelligent gentleman tricked by the light is speaking
Yes.
on.
Yeah, man. I think so too. And again, it exists on all levels because again, there's that veil in you for yourself to discover. There's that veil in the family sometimes that where you have to come out of your family's expectations or your the person you've become because of their opinions or whatever. There's different levels across the board on how we deal with this firmament, right? This trap
Right.
that we're in. It's unbelievable. And I think that
Yeah.
maybe looking at it this way will help us solve our problems because we can look at the uh, use Russian doll as the example. We can look at one part of the Russian doll we can see how the outcome goes, and then we can relate it to another part of our lives and go, oh, okay, so how do I compare those two as metaphor and find my fucking solution to this problem in my life? If over here, like, you can look at anything.
Yes.
So it's changed my perspective forever and for the better, I hope.
I agree. What, man, again, like Graham Hancock says, and I feel like we're a species that's been hit on the head with amnesia.
Yeah.
I do think that certain species, certain fragments or factions of humans over the years, as long as we have been either in this trap or maybe trapped ourselves due to this amnesia, one of the two, or maybe others too, that there have been some that I would dare to postulate have, quote unquote, moved on in a good way. Now, here's the thing, it gets tough because let me give you an example. When Putin had to step down as president to be prime minister before he amended the Russian constitution to make him president forever, he had to do 8 years, step down, then he could do another 8. President Medvedev took place, but arguably Putin's puppet. I'm not trying to get into that right now, but point being was that President Medvedev was, when he was given his first briefing with the press, he had Russian and American press there, and he was he said in Russian, sorry, he told the press that when you become president of the Russian Federation, you are given a briefing document, top secret, on all of the nuclear facilities that the Russian in our territory, in our nation, in addition to all of the known extraterrestrial underground bases. And he said, if you would like to know more, please take a look at the documentary, not the movie, the documentary Men in Black. Bloomberg or Reuters, I think it was Reuters, they perverted and obfuscated it to the West and to the rest of Europe as he was joking and he was referring to the Men in Black movie. And so it's been in our faces the whole time. But again, Ukraine.
Oh my God, dude. Yes, I totally saw that. I know what you're talking about now because I, at one point, totally took it the same way. I was like, okay, so I get it. He's calling Men in Black a documentary.
Yeah.
He's just telling us what's in the movie is true. But are you saying that he's actually talking about there's an actual documentary called Men in Black?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And also, in addition to that, there's former ambassador. I've brought him up a lot lately, but I've eased off because I think I've exhausted everything he's sort of put out there. But Leonid Ivashov. He's a former Russian 4-star general, scientist, doctor, ambassador, the whole thing, like literally like one of those guys. And he wrote a book that no non-speaking Russian publication would even think to consider printing a copy, because he said the ETs are real, they're here. From our understanding, some are good, some are bad, but the bad ones have not kinetically or physically attacked us so far. What did he say too as well? He said in his book NASA spent $10 million on finding something that was we would consider even like beyond Disney movie magical. He also said that the Middle East wars were actually, again, to look for mystical Stargate technology. I know that's been speculated by others too. In addition to making, the ones at the top profit, because why the hell not for them as they see it, right? But
dude, I can agree, and I'll come at it from a different angle. But go ahead.
So there's that, and then darn it, I lost my train of...
I fucked you up, man.
No, it's all no, it's you didn't know, it's all good. But anyways, yeah, he was saying that, and what was it? There's Rush, yeah. Anyways, I'll catch it in a second. There's so much, but I mean, so yeah, that would essentially, there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of here it was. Sorry, the what was his name? Gorbachev.
Oh,
back in back in the 80s, when he went to the White House to visit Reagan back in the day, Gorbachev was asked by CNN. It was aired once. I have the clip on my other computer, but he was asked one time, do you think that the Soviet Union should give up their nuclear weapons? Before Gorbachev could even answer, his wife stepped in and said on CNN, it was aired only one time, no, we should not give up our nukes because the aliens are here and we don't know what they can, and we don't know what they can do. It was aired once, never again. So I'm not saying I'm right, everyone else is wrong. What I'm saying to your audience, brother, is please, I say this in a good faith way, make of it as you will.
I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you always have that perspective, man. I can't stand when I see people like, why you share this crap or whatever. Well, like when you share like an honest, neutral UFO video, because dude, the most realistic ones that the government is slinging are just as flimsy as any other ones. So fuck off with your negativity, especially considering that, again, whatever's happening is happening. It doesn't matter what it turns out to be.
Right. There's happening. A there there. There's a right. Exactly.
There's a there there.
Yeah, exactly. a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, on my Kraken, on my news segments during the week, I made a huge conflation, big mistake. I confused Czechoslovakia with the Czech Republic.
Oh, okay.
And, it was, and then immediately the next day I apologized, because if I don't apologize, the way I see it is, how the fuck would I be any better than CNN? Right, if I either doubled down or pretended to ignore it, what the hell? That makes
it's good that you caught it,
Well, no, I didn't. Someone in the comments did, and I'm like, thank you. Yeah,
good friend. Yeah. There's so many good friends out there in the listenership, man. This community is a beautiful thing. I've gotten many of my newer ideas from like, I'm building off my older material, and way before I had a podcast, this shit was floating around in my head for so long. Man, this community, all the people that have reached out to me have helped me along figuring out more of it. I always say that we're all puzzle pieces, man.
I agree.
And I think most of us don't realize that and don't think that that's the case. But every one of us, doesn't matter what language we're using, we're all saying what's going on. I think that's why it takes all of us, because the more of us that are talking about it, the more perspectives are covered.
Well, and that's fractality. But I also think too of, like, for example, like on a phone, for example, you may have your Instagram app on the home screen. I may have it in a folder on the second page of my phone. We're still getting to the same app. It's just different ways, but we're still getting there. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man.
That's how I generally view it.
That's the same thing. Like, I love talking to Michael from Beyond Top Secret Texan. Shout out to him. He's got a lot of crazy stuff to present that, if you're going to be skeptical, then you're going to throw half of it out. And what's the point of doing that when you can see that everything that he's saying is clearly there's substance to it? It doesn't matter whether he knows the ultimate truth behind the door. Nobody does.
Well,
that's kind of the whole
and to add to that, when I speak with Michael Beyond Top Secret Texan, nothing but very fantastic conversations with him, nothing but respect and all that stuff. And I have to say, when so it's interesting because he's been saying things for quite some time now that I haven't, really comprehended and absorbed until recently. And you see, to add to what you said about the latter part with respects to when people say, and I don't mean to use him as an example, but just because you brought him up, when people say, well, where are his sources or anything like this? Now, he claims it's from his dreams and he's taught things in his dream. You know who also claimed to be fair, that they were taught things in their dream? I say this in a good way. Many other people around the world that allegedly knew about Atlantis, things like this. And to be fair as well, Hitler's mentor who brought him into the Thule Society, I forgot his name off the top of my head, claimed to have dreams of Atlantis from another life and wrote them down and had equations that led to anti-gravity, all these things. So when someone says, show me proof or evidence of your claims, what a peer review, and again, I have respect for the peer review process, but
right.
When I was listening to, and I say this in a good way, to Kurchai Mungel's Theory of Everything, with, physicists debating, on my morning walks, I usually listen to his show. Mm-hmm. I thought to myself, these are some of the top, at least on the surface as we know it, academics in the world. And Kurt's done a great job of bringing them together, but holy shit, I've learned a lot. But you know what I've also learned? That we have no idea where the fuck we are. So when people, you know what I mean? When we try to understand what makes up life. So when people say, where are your sources or something like this, I am truthfully considering very strongly, in my personal opinion, adding, this came to me in a dream. This came to me in from a hypnotic state of regression. And that doesn't mean, by the way, that I'm going to just blatantly believe them, but I want to treat this as if I was looking at a document, because looking at a document doesn't mean that it's true as well. Right. It just shows something is there. So when I say, when people say, for example, these former secret space program soldiers, how do they know this? Well, again, can you prove how they not know it? Like, the thing is,
dude, I was an atheist before I went to psychedelics, and then I came back having to face some weird shit in my head.
Well, but the thing is too, to add to one more thing, if we go on the micro scale, and this is not to take a jab at academia, but ask, although it's been suggested string theory was deliberately put out there to stagnate the field. But anyways,
I've heard that.
Fuck. Ask any physicist what, an atom is or a subatomic thing is. And once you get to a certain point, they're just going to go, fuck, I don't know. Like, it's just the way, it's just what it is. So
dark matter, dark energy.
Well, there you go. But again, replace the word dark with exotic, and you see that all of a sudden how your mind views it differently now. But that's not what I think those are the top. Anyways, but Point being though is, like, when you look at it, we have no idea where we are, what we are, all of this. And I'm not trying to simply just throw away all of the midnight oil these scientists burn. I'm really not. But man, it's like, it gets to a point where it's almost like you know what I'm blown away with, man? How close-minded some of these physicists are, truth be told.
Reductionists. Yeah,
I swear to God, like they say, they use words, and I brought this up on my show quite often recently. They use words like physical realism or stuff like this to explain actions in which occur and can be observed and proven scientifically. Can be observed scientifically, but not proved. Mm-hmm. And physical realism, in my opinion, is just something that these scientists that are very limited in their beliefs use to sleep better at night, so they don't have to use the word magic.
That's absolutely.
That's just my take. I could be wrong, but
so I think it falls again. It's that balance. It's that neutrality you talk about, because it falls somewhere in the middle, doesn't it? Because once the secrets are revealed, once the magic trick is shown, it's not magic, it's sleight of hand. And it's just that reality, again, it's that diamond in the rough where reality has that sleight of hand built into it. You ever see the movie Dogma? I've brought it up before. I don't know if I brought it up to you, but I love at the end where Bethany, or whatever the main character, goes up to God, Alanis Morissette, and asks her, Alanis Morissette, goes up to her and asks her, why are we here? And what does she do? She just bops her on the nose and goes, wah, and winks and walks away. because
Right.
nope, not telling. There's something weird, playful, childish, innocent, but secretive about this whole fucking experience. It's amazing.
Right. And it makes me think too that, for example, when they say Kurt Munkel, I think it was a computer scientist that he had on in the last month or two, and he had a proposal, or he postulated that there cannot be a theory of everything, because by definition, when you explain a new phenomenon or revelation, you then have unexplained phenomenons within that cannot be explained, and it just keeps going and going and going. Now, this made me think, however, from a philosophical perspective, is that not the point of life? The joys in the journey?
Oh,
I don't
absolutely.
know.
That's the classic state. That's when you find all the truth is in the metaphors
Right, and
sayings that we grow up saying,
Right. And this is what makes me think of, again, there have been alleged interactions with non-human biological entities that have said, we don't know we know way more than you guys, but we don't know everything. And that's what keeps us going. And for them, the value that they exchange allegedly with other factions of ETs, it's not money, obviously, it's information. It's the real value of things. It's the real information. Well, look at the Intel community. It's all about info, and then it's all about knowledge. And then after the money comes to solidify or secure that knowledge. But at the beginning, it's all Intel, right? So
yeah, it really is, man.
Yeah.
And, yeah, dude. We've covered a lot of good stuff here already, man.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I don't mean to cut short, but I probably have to jet in the next little bit, if that's cool.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm on the East Coast too. Are you still on the East Coast?
I'm actually, I'm Central. It's 9:30.
Oh, you're Central now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta get to bed soon too. I gotta be an
It's
adult.
fun.
But this has been so awesome. We can wrap up, but yeah, dude, I really appreciate you, and I love
I
our talks.
appreciate you, man.
Clearly, we haven't talked in a while, because this
Dude.
was an unloading, and this was great.
We need to, as we talked on Telegram in that group, that we need to do something. We have to, even if it's twice a month, something we got to do.
Yeah,
us three, where again, because there's something there that we need, that I think a lot of people would really want to hear more of.
Yeah, we have this. You, me, and Brandon have this jive with. We can just bounce around, and it stays coherent and cohesive a lot of the time. I think you guys reel me in a lot, which is good. But we reel each other in. That's how it works. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you, but I guess it slipped away. But you know what? I'll think about it, and we'll do it again, obviously.
No problem at all, man. No problem.
So, that's what it was. I wanted to tell my audience, for anyone that didn't know in the beginning or early on when you and I used to talk, Dave was one of the first podcasters that I ever reached out to before I had a show. And you were one of the guys that was just the warmest, sweetest people.
Oh, thanks.
Right off the bat, and wanted to include me and wanted to be interested in what I had to say to you. And that's why I tried to bring that with me along the way, because people like you really made me think I should do this. I should be a part of this. This is the right move. And I just want to thank you.
Oh, well, brother, I want to thank you, man, because there's so many things that, holy crap, there was something that this is how I know I'm getting tired, but there was something that you had said or did for me a little while ago. I don't recall. It was last year, but I wanted to thank you for it. I literally had it in my head, but I
don't even remember. I mean, hey. I'm glad I did something that made you happy.
Oh, this one, when I got banned by YouTube temporarily,
right.
You helped me. You helped gain some traction by saying this is one of the nicest guys. I can't thank you enough, because that helped YouTube respond. I can't thank you enough.
I'm glad it did, man. I'm glad it did.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
I really appreciate you, man. Please, for anyone who has not been following Generation Zed, needs to tell them all the links, what they can do, where they can.
Thank you. After you've checked out Andy's stuff, because I recommend his stuff before mine, because his stuff is the best. Generation Zed, ZED podcast, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or Spotify, and YouTube as well. YouTube, I think I'm shadow banned depending on the day and the week, so you just have to type it the full thing in. Unfortunately, Generation space ZED. I'm also
hit that
on
subscribe button once you're there, and then you'll start to see.
Perfect. Thank you. And then I'm also on Patreon on patreon.com/Generation Zed. It is the, at least on my end, it is the backbone of the show. I can safely say now there's hundreds of hours of extra content on there, whether at the basic level, advanced level. We're just getting started. We have people from all the way from occultists to astrophysicists to, I mean, you name it, to deep dives into the intelligence world. And we have a lot of fun doing it. So I can't thank you enough, man. And also, please, if you could send me this file, I'd love to put it on my end.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I don't think we ever have not done that. And I think that's
Right.
the way it's always should be with you and me, because like, I feel like our topics and what we go into, I think both audiences would appreciate it. So
I couldn't agree more, man. But thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it tremendously.
yeah, thank you for coming on.
Actually, hold on. Sorry. Could you please tell my audience, since it's going up on
yes,
my end,
sure. Yeah. I'm at the Deep Share on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm on Facebook. Don't go there. I don't do anything on there. But yeah, YouTube and Rockfin and Odyssey. And yeah, that's pretty much where you could find me. I am on Patreon, but I'm just getting started. I have a lot of big plans that are coming into action right now, and I'm going to be dumping a lot of stuff over the next week and so on. So yeah, it's been awesome talking to you, dude.
If there's anything I can do as it pertains to assisting on the Patreon, please let me know, brother.
Well, dude, I mean, shit, if you, me, and Brandon start throwing down together, once a month, something like that, I think that would benefit everybody, because
yes,
we're all very weird when we get together, and it's awesome.
And it's great.
It's just
awesome.
wonderful.
It's awesome.
Hell
but
yeah.
Thank you so much, man. I got to unfortunately get going, but
Me too, man.
Thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time, man. Thank you.
See you, everybody.
Cheers, bud.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Deep Share Podcast. If you want to hear more, then hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all the social places. And remember, think for yourself, but don't always believe what you think. Till next time.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, vegetarian. Enough, I get the point.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone.
What do we know? What do we know? If I know what we know, then I can tell you what we know, and if someone else knows, okay? I mean...